Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's Encore episode is all about the choice to avoid regrets in midlife, because one thing's for sure, you will regret having regrets. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle with over 1 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife clarity expert, and I am so glad to be here with you again. You may have noticed today's episode is an encore episode, and this means I'm republishing an older episode again because it was popular, and I know you will love it. If you're a newer listener, you may not have heard episodes from the back catalog. This podcast has been around since 2017, so I get it. That's a long time ago. And if you are a regular listener, you probably know the value of reconnecting with concepts from older episodes. The other reason for an occasional encore is because of my personal schedule. Sometimes there are special events or vacations that bump up against my podcast schedule, and it's a win-win solution for all. So that's what's happening today. Today's episode originally came out as episode 91, and that would have been in the second year. But just quick, before we dive into this topic, I want to share something exciting with you. I know that in midlife, it's easy to get stuck and confused about your priorities, about what the heck you really want to do with your valuable time on this planet. No small thing. And you really are not alone when it comes to getting clear about what you want, what your passion is, and what you want to make sure you don't have regrets about. So I came up with something to help you. It's called Get Unstuck Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy Masterclass. So here's the scoop. Life is too short to waste time feeling stuck in midlife. If you don't do something about your stuck state of affairs, nobody will. And now you can do this. Take this fun online midlife masterclass and get clear about your next chapter priorities without spin, confusion, and overwhelm in less than an hour. My amazing woman in the middle, picture this. You snap your fingers and you are crystal clear about what your priorities in life are so that you can take the next best steps forward. You finally feel peaceful and confident because you know how to move forward, and you see that you have plenty of time to have more fun and meaning in your life. That is what I'm talking about. You can grab this masterclass and get unstuck about your priorities fast and easy on your own time, in the comfort of your own home, and without being seen live on screen. And like I said, it's fast and easy. It's way easier than you think. The introductory pricing is great. So if you are tired of feeling stuck and bored with craving more happiness and excitement in your life because you don't know what you want, you need to run, don't walk. You've got nothing to lose and clarity to gain, my friend. Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com and download Get Unstuck Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy and get started. So now let's get back to avoiding regrets. As a midlife gal, have you thought about what regrets you might have someday and what you could actually do about them? It's something that comes up a lot with my clients. And the more and more you learn about the potential role of mindfulness in your life, the more and more you become aware of what you actually want and what you actually think. And the more you see the value of being intentional about regret-proofing your life. So I know you're going to get a lot out of today's Encore episode, the choice to avoid regrets in midlife. Let's dive in. For sure, we start to think about more about potential regrets in midlife, right? I know that you are probably aware of this, but it's also important to check in with yourself about how committed you are to doing something about it. So that's my question for you. Are you all in for regret-proofing your life in midlife, especially after 50? I've been talking about regret-proofing now since about 2015, and it is a term that really gets at a critically important concept in midlife. Like I said, it's one thing to talk about regrets, but it's another thing to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. Regret-proofing is actively preventing regrets or reducing the likelihood that you will experience regret. So think about what Frank Sinatra and Paul Anka had to say about this topic. Regrets, I've had a few, but can you say, I did it my way? Are you doing everything you can to make sure that you have too few regrets to mention? I hear from amazing midlife women every day who are worried about having regrets. Being more mindful and more connected to what you're thinking is super helpful when it comes to regrets. Seriously helpful. How can you do something about preventing regrets, though, if you don't know where your head's at regarding potential regrets? So ask yourself this. Do you know what regret you're worried about having? Do you know what it is? Do you know why you might have the regret? And then, do you know what would get in the way of you trying to prevent those regrets from happening? As you know firsthand, all kinds of things get in the way of what you want to do. All kinds of things every day. Lots of them have to do with not putting yourself first. And lots of related feelings come up from thinking in a way that creates fear. Fear is such a problematic four-letter word. It really gets in the way if you're not careful. And this is something that affected me so much when it came to thinking about change just about the time I turned 50. It was in my late 40s going into turning 50. So let's focus on Frank Sinatra again for a second, shall we? Were you lucky enough to have heard him perform live? I was. I got to hear him at the end of his performing career, and I am so grateful I did. I remember the concert. It was in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. He smoked a cigarette on stage. His son was the orchestra director too, and I thought that was really cool. I was super high up. I had horrible seats, but I was there, and I knew that I would have regretted not hearing him live. I am a huge big band fan. I love jazz, big band jazz, classic jazz. I love that stuff. I play saxophone. I played in jazz bands. Like, seriously, I've played many of the charts and the songs that he sang. I'm familiar with so many of them. Anyway, the same cannot be said for Mel Torme. I love Mel Torme too, but I never heard him live, and I thoroughly regret it. So I always tell my kids, make sure you go to the live concerts, see the live musicians playing, see the concerts, do the experiences. It's so good. I mean, that's when we were, going to concerts. Anyway, times are a little different now. But getting back to Frank Sinatra, wouldn't it be great to have too few regrets to mention? To live so intentionally, doing everything you really, really, really wanted to do so that you didn't have regrets? Why? Because you did it your way. So the Urban Dictionary defines regret as the feeling often accompanied by sadness, shame, and guilt. Regret is when you wish you'd done things differently in your past. It is quite common to sail into your 40s and 50s and realize that if you don't make some significant changes, you just may have some significant regrets. That's what I started to sense. But you usually don't have it right away. You don't realize it right away. But as the years wear on, you will likely wake up at some point and think about how fast time is flying by. So here's what I realized about my own regret concern when I was stuck in my late 40s. I started to ask myself whether or not I was doing the things that I really wanted to do. A lot of this had to do with travel and exercise. I was like, come on. At this age, I still didn't figure out some kind of exercise that I actually really like. Eventually, I found tennis. But, it was surprising to me. And also some thoughts about regrets of experiences I wanted to have with my kids and my friends. I started to think, my kids, oh my God, they're in high school already, and I still haven't done that adventure travel, or we still haven't had that experience or gone here or there. And it was like, where did the time go? I was also concerned about having regrets related to living the way I really wanted to live. So this is where the concept of work-life balance popped into my mind and whether or not I was fulfilled professionally. I had the sense that I had been at my job too long. Like, I liked my job. My job was good. I was always so content. But I started to have this sense that I was there too long. And I also started to become aware that I wasn't in a job that really emphasized all of my strengths. It emphasized a few things that I really loved doing and did really well, but there was like a big gaping hole on a couple of strengths, and I realized that one of the reasons I probably didn't go that direction was because of fear. And it was kind of hard for me to make that realization. I also started to become more aware of my thoughts and feelings about living in a cold weather city. I really can't stand the winter anymore, yet I live in Toronto. This is where I live. So what's going on with that? And the other area I started to become concerned about having regrets was about becoming the person I wanted to become on purpose. So when you're a kid, you always think, oh, this is the kind of mom I want to be, or oh, this is the kind of teacher or veterinarian or doctor or professional that I want to be. Like you have this image in your head. And then when you get to be a little older, like our age, you start to think, well, what kind of woman do I want to become? And have I become that woman yet? Am I on the road to becoming that woman? So when I started to think about that, some thoughts about self-care popped up, like my weight or my routine, like my morning routine, or thoughts about rest, or thoughts about being patient, or thoughts about being present, being a good listener, becoming really proficient in some areas that I was really interested in. And one really important thing was becoming more creative. That sort of thing was on my mind when I thought about regrets. So these are just some thought starters for you, but I hear about fear of regrets from my clients and my community on the regular. It's like when you turn 50, the door to these thoughts about regrets, it just opens wide, and it's like you rush in and it's all of a sudden, oh my God, what is going on? Midlife transition can surprise you with how stressful a time it can be, especially for women who are juggling a lot of things. So it's a phase of life when you recognize that you've probably been on autopilot for a fair bit of time, perhaps a couple of decades. And if you don't give yourself a chance to think and reprioritize, more time will continue to fly by and nothing will have changed. So you'll really start to think about if you're doing what really makes you happy or not. You really start to think, do I have the meaning in my life that I thought I would have by now or not? When you look at your life, you might have questions like this. Are you surrounding yourself with the kind of people that you find motivating and intriguing? Are you making a difference in the world? You probably grew up thinking that you'd make some kind of a difference or an impact. Do you feel like you're doing that? Are you connecting with your passion and your purpose? Or does the word passion and the word purpose just stress you out because it's like you have no clue? So the answer to these kinds of questions and these areas to look into, when you think about it, there are more thoughts there. And those thoughts can be overwhelming. And when you're overwhelmed, your likely response is inaction. You pull back. It just feels like it's too much. And nothing changes. So that is the kind of spin cycle that happens a lot of times when you start to think about regrets. So you have definite thoughts about these issues once you dig a little. Someone else might think, for example, that the work you do is rewarding, but it's only relevant what you think about your work. Do you think your work is rewarding? I mean, that happened to me. I liked my job. I really liked my job, my job, the job I had before being an entrepreneur and being a life coach. I really liked it, but I realized it looked good on paper. I liked my projects, but something was missing. I didn't feel content. I thought, you know what? I think I've been here too long. It just doesn't feel rewarding anymore. So regret is a feeling, and feelings are created by thoughts. So if you think you should be doing something else, you may have a regret that you didn't do it. If you think you don't have enough meaning and purpose and fulfillment in your life, you may have a regret that you're not doing something more meaningful. If you think you're not making a difference in the world, or the kind of difference that you always dreamed of making, you may regret that too, that you didn't do something else that created that kind of a difference the way you interpret it. So as you know, thoughts create feelings. And one thing's for sure, there are so many ways to think about your age and stage of life right now, so many. You can't change your age, but you can change the way you think about your age. You can work harder to get more clarity about what you actually want and what you want to do. You can think more productively and more intentionally about what makes you happy, about how you want to have fun, about where you want to travel, all of it. And I am happy to offer you something to help figure all of this out, because I think midlife is the perfect time to start thinking about what you really want to do so you don't have regrets. The better you get at watching your thoughts, managing your mind, and being open to being responsible, for your life, the fewer regrets you'll have. It's a great reminder for you to do it your way, just like Frank Sinatra. But seriously, you're responsible for the results that you create in your life, and that's really the point. The first part is awareness of what you want. The second part is accepting responsibility for creating it by regret-proofing your life. It's a choice, even though it always doesn't feel that way. So with that said, here are the 7 steps I think you can take to make sure that you can regret-proof and avoid the regrets that you're worried about having. So let's go. Step 1, start now. Raise your awareness and be intentional. Don't wait. Take control of the results in your life. Actually, I think today is the perfect time to make this a priority. Step 2, decide what you don't want to regret. Be specific. Actually think about it. The simple framework I start with is always self-care, relationships, and your career, including volunteer work. So really think about it. Imagine yourself 5 or 10 years from now looking back as an even older and wiser woman, and what would your future self know about what was going on with you and your potential regrets that you didn't want to have? Really ask that future self. She's wise, she knows you, and she loves you. Step 3, become a watcher of your thoughts. Remember, you're not your thoughts, but you can take a look at what you're thinking more often instead of responding on autopilot and letting another few years or a few decades go by. Your thoughts count, and you deserve to know what's on your mind. Awareness feels so good. Step 4, be on the lookout for excuses, fear, and resistance. So these thoughts and feelings will totally get in the way. If you catch yourself thinking and believing some reason to prevent you from regret-proofing, notice it and ask yourself why you're choosing to think it and if you like your reasons for thinking it too. If not, you have some work to do, my friend. And then with the feelings of fear and resistance, again, notice how you feel. If you feel fear or resistance, ask yourself if you like making decisions about your life because you're afraid. When I asked myself that question, I did not. If not, remind yourself that you can think a thought that creates the feeling you want on purpose instead. A feeling state that will help you regret-proof and lean in to taking the action that will improve your life. Step 5, decide on purpose to regret-proof and do all the things you're thinking about. Make it a project for you. Put it on your list. Step 6, plan in advance and commit to your plan. Make an action plan. Make it inevitable that you will be successful. Think of ways to make your plan more fun. What can you do to break it down into little chunks of doable regret-proofing? How can you take a baby step just to move forward? And step 7, make your dreams come true and live a life free of regrets. This is what happens when you put yourself first and do regret-proofing your way. You don't have to hope or wish for a life without regrets. All you have to do is decide that you will do all the things and you will say all the things necessary to regret-proof your life. And you'll probably also have to create a new belief system that supports the outcome you want. It is so possible. You're allowed to be intentional about your life. It's a great idea. You know you want it, but will you choose it? You gotta take it seriously. And then you reap the amazing rewards too of more happiness, more alignment with your goals, and more fulfillment in general. Okay, that's it for this episode. And I know it really makes you think, right? What are those things that you sense could be something you might actually regret in your life? Are you clear about what regrets might come up for you? And do you know why? Sensing potential regrets might only be a whisper or a hunch, but you owe it to yourself to acknowledge it and be curious about it. So if you get that sense, just pause and be curious about it. Nobody wants to have regrets, and you can actively take steps to do some regret proofing in your own life. Awareness is key, and you know how we roll, one thought at a time. Now, as you know, this podcast is all about how to love your life again after 50. It's really all about coaching you to be more intentional and to incorporate mindfulness into your life as a regular practice. This is how you put yourself on your agenda. My focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and focused on your current values and priorities so you don't have regrets. I can help you create the confidence, courage, and meaning you're looking for. If you're ready to take a step, you're invited to book your momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com and we will chat. One more thing, you're also invited to purchase my new masterclass, Get Unstuck, Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy, where you can get clear about your next chapter priorities without spin, confusion, and overwhelm in less than an hour. Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com. And finally, for show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 380. You'll also see links there for the new show, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.